Baltimore's top prosecutor joins a crime walk in support for neighborhoods struggling with crime. His message on the fight to end juvenile violence as residents continue to demand change.
We have to stand up and take care of our children and ensure our children have a future.
Plus, a heated debate as leaders address this crisis.
Secretary Schiraldi, I would really love to see your data.
Absolutely.
Because
Why lawmakers remain unsure on solutions.
We can't continue like this.
Then, the 18-year-old suspected in the tragic Brooklyn Day mass shooting is being held as a juvenile. Why prosecutors fear he could be released to the public.
He's arguably a very dangerous person.
Hundreds of angry emails flooding some city council members' inboxes. The strong criticism from community members over 2 failed votes denouncing hate in Baltimore.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 10.
Good evening, I'm Kai Jackson. Baltimore City State's Attorney Ivan Bates is taking his tough on crime message right to the streets. Tonight, he walked and talked with residents in Southeast Baltimore about juvenile crime and how to reduce it.
Residents in the community are living in terror here.
I asked for the job. I want the job. I'm trying to do the job because I'm trying to benefit and be there for them because they're frustrated. They should have to live like this.
Well, Bates' comment comes just hours after a violent incident at a Baltimore high school.
You got kids coming to school with weapons, knives, guns. Why is that necessary?
Well, the issue of juvenile crime is also leading to a fiery debate at a public safety town hall. Mackenzie Frost has more on that fallout in a moment. Our team coverage begins with Keith Daniels and Ivan Bates' firm message in Southeast Baltimore. Keith?
Well, Kai, the city state's attorney's office says Ivan Bates was invited to that community walk, and he showed up with a familiar, stern message. They live in a neighborhood called Graceland Park, a small community tucked away off Dundalk Avenue near O'Donnell Street in Southeast Baltimore. On this night, this small group of residents walking with big concerns, pointing out what they're calling a hotspot for crime.
Everything is going on. Prostitution, drug dealing, you name it.
This man, who wants to remain anonymous, talking about this part of the block on German Hill Road, a vacant lot where neighbors say groups congregate, engage in criminal activity, including open-air drug dealing, involving, in some cases, youth offenders. Lawlessness, they say, frustrating those who live close by.
Frustrated because of the same things. Nothing has been changed. We need to have a change.
Edie Schumann, president of the Graceland Park Improvement Association, organized this community walk, invited police and City State's Attorney Ivan Bates to attend. Schumann hoping BPD and Bates can help bring peace back to their neighborhood.
Residents in the community are living in terror here. They live in terror. There's been a few shootings here that's happened. At the end of the day, enforcement's going to follow on the state's attorney's office because they're Ivan Bates is the head enforcement officer.
I asked for the job. I want the job. I'm trying to do the job because I'm trying to benefit and be there for them because they're frustrated. They should have to live like this. They pay taxes. They go to work. They're trying to make our city the best they can. I need to do what I can as well.
Regarding the juveniles allegedly involved in the drug dealing in the neighborhood, Bates continues his tough talk on accountability.
Well, they are kids. They are kids. We love our kids, but sometimes you have to have tough love. The other things we also realize when it comes to some of those activities like that, we're finding that they're part of an organization. We have older people, adults, preying upon the juveniles because they know that nothing will happen to the juveniles.
Well, Bates' office also invited other city agencies, including the Mayor's Office of Homeless Services, to participate in that walk, part of their partnership plan, they say, to help communities in need. We're live tonight. Keith Daniels, Fox 45 News.
Keith, thank you. Bates' comments on youth crime highlight a rift between prosecutors and lawmakers about juvenile justice laws. We have heard from more than a dozen top prosecutors in Maryland saying the laws leave their hands tied. They argue young people aren't being held accountable.
What we're seeing is just delaying this delinquent behavior that turns into adult criminal behavior, and we need to get to these youth sooner.
We can only hope that they'll not listen to just folks like me or
my 23 colleagues across the state who are the chief prosecutors in their counties, but hopefully they'll listen to their citizens, because their citizens are saying the exact same thing. Enough's enough.
Prosecutors are also putting part of the blame on the Department of Juvenile Services. They're asking DJS to notify courts when a young person violates home monitoring. At the public safety town hall that we mentioned, a deputy city state's attorney criticized how DJS handles the children in its custody.
There are kids who have figured out that nothing will happen to them so they keep pushing, right? They keep trying to find what is that point, and it's not good when that point is the 4th armed robbery or that point is the 2nd handgun offense.
Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost was at the town hall last night and shares some of the intense discussion.
The tense back and forth between the leader of the Department of Juvenile Services and a prosecutor really remains one of the biggest takeaways from a town hall in Baltimore City Monday night. And it's clear the only thing that we know right now is that 2 big key players in this juvenile crime conversation are not on the same page.
With that, I want to hand it over.
From the beginning of a juvenile crime town hall in Baltimore City, the frustrations on full display.
Secretary Schiraldi, I would really love to see your data.
Absolutely.
Because, and this is from 22.
Yeah, and you're going to see the next one in less than a month. I'd like to see some data from you, though. I'm not really hearing too much data from your office.
A fiery exchange between DJS Secretary Vincent Schiraldi and the Deputy Division Chief for Juveniles in the City State's Attorney's Office, Kate Rosenblatt, highlighting the lack of clear policy on what to do with kids at intake, especially when guns are involved. A woman in the audience telling Schiraldi her teenager was robbed at gunpoint in September in the middle of the afternoon.
Gun cases should come to us when they do. If the police bring a gun case to us, which they can't divert, so they're bringing them to us, we detain them till they see the judge the next day, and the judge makes his or her own decision.
The woman says the suspect was not detained, adding she supports programs and services for young people and their families, but right now, she says the current system is not working.
I'm not opposed to funding for that. I just know that I also know kids that are laughing at the cops when they arrest them.
The state's attorney's office handing out flyers detailing juvenile crime data. In 2023, 625 juvenile cases charged by Baltimore City's town prosecutor's office, including 279 stolen car cases, 142 handgun-related cases, 126 robbery-related cases, but that's not all.
It was noted that there's 189 cases, I guess, waiting to be referred to the district attorney's office, state's attorney's office.
Secretary Schiraldi appeared blindsided by that data point.
There are 189 cases we know are out there and that may be forwarded to our office at some time.
We just heard about 189 cases which were important enough to put on that piece of paper, but which have never come to my attention from the state's attorney's office. So is this just important to say here in front of cameras? Or if we want it to be resolved, is it something that should have been brought to me?
And after the meeting, Secretary Schiraldi, we tried catching up with him to talk about the data debate. Secretary Schiraldi, why won't you answer questions? But the secretary and his staffer scurrying out the side door, not taking our questions. Meanwhile, Senate President Bill Ferguson addressing our questions.
I'm frustrated.
Saying DJS isn't working, especially when you have 2 agencies on completely different pages about the data and what's happening with juvenile offenders. Where's the reality in this conversation?
It's the right question. It's the question I've been asking for the last year. The challenge is probably everyone's a little bit right and everyone's a little bit wrong. It is absolutely my commitment that people will be around the table to figure this out. We can't continue like this.
The solution remains elusive, with lawmakers pledging to craft policy to address concerns. It's not clear what it will look like come January. Senator Ferguson says he wants to make sure that DJS is following the appropriate policies and protocols, but that's something he says that cannot be done legislatively. Instead, it'll come down to using budget authority. We'll have to wait and see if DJS's budget is adjusted to ensure policies are followed. In the newsroom, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Fox 45 News spoke to several frustrated residents following last night's town hall. They say they're tired of the lack of action from DJS and Secretary Schiraldi.
When it comes to hearing from DJS specifically, what do you want to hear from the secretary about what's going on?
his resignation. I'm sorry to be so blunt, but I just don't think he gets it.
And I think Schiraldi really came out short. He was very indirect, and in some ways he was very self-serving tonight. And really, this is about public safety. It's not about him personally. And I think there's a lot more accountability he needs to answer to. I think Schiraldi's got a lot of gaps in what his data presents.
Schiraldi's views on the juvenile justice system have been controversial. On a Harvard University panel, he said parole and probation should be eliminated, in his opinion. The DJS secretary says those systems don't deter people from committing crimes and don't rehabilitate offenders. Fox 45 News spoke with some experts who disagree.
One of the two things probation and parole are supposed to do is keep us safer. Parole made us less safer. Probation had no impact.
There needs to be some type of supervision for these people. I don't agree that all juveniles need to end up in a juvenile detention center, but again, some of them need to have some type of correctional supervision, aka probation, because again, it's important for them to understand that what they did was wrong.
Well, Schiraldi has said young people should be kept out of the adult prison system until they turn 25 because scientists have determined the human brain isn't fully developed until the age of 25. Governor Wes Moore called Schiraldi a reformer for his views. Others disagree.
You're basically saying up until the age of 25, which is what he wants to do, you get a free ride.
Unfortunately, legislators, lawmakers, have decided that it's better to support the lawbreakers rather than those who are enforcing the law.
DJS is also facing questions about how it keeps track of the children in its system. A Fox 45 News investigation revealed the department has 14 staff members to look for more than 100 kids, which is nearly a 1-to-9 ratio. Now, those not at the detention facility are under home monitoring, but often don't face serious consequences for violating those terms until the third or fourth offense. Prosecutors argue that's not a strong enough deterrent to crime. That brings us to our question of the day. Do you think Governor Moore needs to replace DJS Secretary Vincent Schiraldi? So far, 94% of those who voted say yes. You can make your voice heard by going to foxbaltimore.com. If you feel your juvenile crime concerns aren't being heard, reach out to your lawmakers. House Speaker Adrian Jones and Senate President Bill Ferguson are two of the most powerful voices in Annapolis. Their phone numbers and email addresses are on your screen. Fox 45 News is hosting our town hall on public safety tomorrow. We invite you to join us. City Councilman Eric Costello and mayoral candidate Sheila Dixon will be on our panel. It takes place tomorrow at 7 p.m. at Leadenhall Baptist Church. We did invite Mayor Brandon Scott to take part in the town hall, but we have not heard back. We're following a stabbing at Carver Votech High School this afternoon. Police say a student was arrested after they say he stabbed a student and a teacher during an altercation. Police say that teacher was trying to break up a fight. Both victims are recovering, and the school was placed on lockdown briefly. Parents tell Fox 45 News they weren't properly notified, and they're frustrated with continued violence at Carver.
You got kids coming to school with weapons, knives, guns. Why is that necessary?
When I went here, it was shootings. We had school lockdowns almost every day. I don't know what they're going to do to fix it. I don't know if it's anything they can do to fix it.
Well, less than 2 months ago, 3 teens were shot outside of Carver High School. One of those teens and his parents were indicted. Police say the suspects went to school with their son and helped them assault another teen. Now, that incident on another topic of conversation at last night's public safety town hall.
But it is hard when you are trying to grasp an immediate situation such as the shooting at Carver High School, where there was a juvenile who was involved, who picked up a gun that was part of the shooting, and he was not detained, Schiraldi. So I don't know where the policy standpoint is of if there's a gun involved, they are detained, because time after time they are not.
Well, our extensive coverage on the town hall and juvenile crime in Baltimore can be found on our website, foxbaltimore.com. Still ahead on Fox 45 News at 10 o'clock tonight, we could soon get more answers about the Safe Streets program in Baltimore and how it spends taxpayer dollars, what we know about a possible audit, and what we could learn from it. Fox 45 News obtains emails the public sent to city council members in Baltimore after they abstained from a vote on a resolution condemning anti-Semitism. The range of emotion in those emails and the sharp criticism from some citizens.
And it was another day of powerful wind gusts across central Maryland, well into the 30s, and the wind chill factor, the big issue overnight. We talk about how cold things get and when we could turn milder toward Christmas.
An 18-year-old charged in the Brooklyn day mass shooting is being held at a juvenile facility. The pushback from legal experts and how that could lead to the accused repeat offender's release before trial. The Maryland Attorney General's office is releasing footage from a deadly officer-involved shooting on November 24th in Parkville. He killed his wife, Maxine, then shot at police before officers killed him. And we warn you, the video and audio is disturbing.
Shots fired, shots fired.
You can hear a woman screaming horribly in this audio here. Then you hear Arnell firing his weapon. Baltimore County Police say 3 officers returned fire, eventually hitting and killing Arnell. They also found Maxine, his wife, dead inside of that home. The Attorney General's office is now investigating. The full video is available at foxbaltimore.com. An 18-year-old suspect in the Brooklyn day mass shooting is being held at a juvenile facility despite his age and the seriousness of his alleged crimes. A new ruling placed Tristan Jackson back under DJS supervision and could possibly lead to his release before trial. Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor has the pushback from legal experts.
As word spreads of Judge Charles Bloomquist's decision to house an adult offender in a juvenile facility.
Why in the world would he put him into a juvenile detention facility?
Debate over the decision, the talk of Baltimore's talk radio.
He's basically made adult decisions. He should be treated like an adult.
And amongst local attorneys sharing their shock.
It is unheard of. It is highly unusual for something like this to occur.
It would be extremely rare, no doubt.
At 18 years old, Tristan Jackson is legally an adult accused of 57 counts of attempted murder and weapons charges in connection to the Brooklyn Homes mass shooting. Police claiming Jackson was caught on CCTV cameras spraying 5 rounds in the direction of 7 unknown individuals who were fleeing. Following his August arrest, a judge deeming Jackson a danger to the community, holding him without bond in an adult facility. Last Friday, Judge Bloomquist approving a motion to move Jackson to a juvenile facility.
Legally speaking, minors are minors and adults are adults. It just doesn't seem to follow the logical course of where most cases track.
Legal experts also questioning if the transfer could allow Jackson to walk free. Due to capacity constraints, there are often long wait times for open beds inside DJS detention centers. And due to PREA regulations, which prevent adults from being housed with juveniles, there's a chance that at 6'5", 210 pounds, Jackson could be released from custody and instead placed on a DJS ankle monitor while he awaits his adult trial.
There is a very realistic possibility that the Department of Juvenile Services is not going to be able to place Mr. Jackson in a facility that will ensure the safety of the other children that are housed in the very same facility.
When they get past that, 17 and 6 month sort of window, they're sort of moving them and looking for other placements for them, putting them on electronic monitoring.
This is police claim Jackson's DJS ankle monitor from a prior gun offense is what they used to track Jackson to the scene of the Brooklyn home shooting.
He's arguably a very dangerous person.
Concerns echoed in a statement from the city-state's attorney's office, writing a part, quote, "As it stands, DJS does not consider public safety when determining whether a youth should be detained, and we fear the possibility that DJS will allow him to be released into the community, even though a judge has already found him to be a threat to the community." Fox 45 sending questions to DJS yesterday and again today, asking, will Jackson remain detained until his trial? And would housing an adult in a juvenile detention center be a violation of PREA? As of news time tonight, no response.
Rebecca Breyer, Fox 45 News.
Fox 45 News sent questions to all members of the General Assembly asking if they think Tristan Jackson should be transferred to a juvenile facility or kept in an adult facility. Republican Delegate Charles Otto of Wicomico County and Worcester counties says Jackson shouldn't be in a juvenile facility because his crimes aren't of a juvenile nature. He also questions why Jackson is in a juvenile facility given his age. Republican Delegate Nino Mangione of Baltimore County says the juvenile justice system isn't the appropriate place to adjudicate what he calls Jackson's heinous crimes. We're asking our viewers, should Tristan Jackson be held in juvenile court or adult court until his trial? 96% of those who voted say juvenile court. Go to foxbaltimore.com/vote and click on the Midday tab to weigh in. Well, Fox 45 News digs into the criticism for some city council members after abstaining on a resolution condemning Jewish hate. The heated words from their constituents.
Weather-wise today, cloudy, cold, even a few flakes flying out there. Now the high winds finally letting up, but it is not feeling any warmer for the moment. Temperatures continue to plummet as cold air rushes in out of the north and west. Those peak wind gusts dying off overnight, so get ready for a cold start tomorrow morning, but less windy. We'll talk about your Christmas forecast coming up.
All right, Wyatt, and if for some reason you have a notion to be outside and down at the Inner Harbor tonight, where Wyatt says the winds have died down, but it's still chilly, this is a look at it. Still pretty. Bundle up. We have breaking news tonight. The Colorado Supreme Court rules former President Donald Trump is ineligible to be on the 2024 ballot. Now, they're citing what's known as an insurrection clause in the U.S. Constitution. Colorado is the first state to make that decision. Trump's attorneys are planning to appeal. The decision is stayed until January 4th or until the Supreme Court makes a decision. We'll keep you posted. Trailblazing Supreme Court Justice Sandra Day O'Connor, the first woman to serve on the high court, was laid to rest today at the National Cathedral. O'Connor died earlier this month at the age of 93. She was nominated by President Ronald Reagan in 1981 and served on the court 24 years. President Biden and Chief Justice John Roberts honored the late justice. Biden called her a true American pioneer.
Sandra Day O'Connor, the daughter of the American West, was a pioneer in her own right, breaking down the barriers in the legal and political worlds and the nation's consciousness. To her, the Supreme Court was bedrock, the bedrock of America.
O'Connor's family is asking for donations to be made to iCivics. That's the group that she founded to promote civics education. Coming up at 10:30, calls for Safe Streets transparency gain traction at City Hall. How we could be a step closer to an audit of the agency overseeing the program.
I'm Kayla Gaskins in Washington. Coming up, a look at recent anti-Israel protests around the country, including right here on Capitol Hill.
Israeli officials are calling for another humanitarian pause in the fighting as war continues to escalate in Gaza. Israeli troops trying to force the remaining Gaza civilians south in an effort to identify more Hamas targets. The IDF launched a raid on one of the last functioning hospitals in Gaza, detaining most of the hospital staff. A group of Christians living in Gaza reportedly hiding from snipers in an old church. Their family members tell the National Desk it's been tense.
We have to come up with new words for what's happening in Gaza. Really, because none of the words in English that I know can describe how I feel. I wait for 24 hours and sometimes 72 hours to get a text message just literally saying we're alive.
Israeli officials confirm a raid into another church in Gaza, but deny any reports on casualties. This comes as the Biden administration is pressing for the war to be scaled back to protect civilians. Here at home, 4 Baltimore City Council members are facing backlash over their decision not to adopt resolution condemning Jewish hate. Instead, writing a second resolution condemning both hate of those who are Jewish and Islamic. That also didn't pass. Well, tonight we have team coverage on the American response to the war, beginning with Jeff Abel and angry messages from constituents following the council's decision. Jeff?
Well, it appears those 4 city council members who refused to vote on that anti-hate resolution are now the targets of hate themselves.
I stand here deeply concerned.
It was 2 weeks ago when fireworks erupted at City Hall. 4 council members refused to vote on a resolution which denounced anti-Semitism and condemned Hamas invasion of Israel. Their abstention sent the measure down in defeat.
We will not be silent. There have been many people in the city of Baltimore that have experienced hate, Jewish and also Islamic.
And this is the double standard that we have grown to live with our entire life. And, you know, it sends the message that hate is only okay if it's being perpetuated against Jews.
Their actions drew angry reactions. In emails we obtained from City Hall, constituents are targeting their outrage toward the 4 council members who abstained from the vote. To Councilman Christopher Burnett, one constituent wrote, "Shame on you. How can you support terrorism? Hamas committed atrocities and will continue to do so. Shame on you." To Councilwoman Odette Ramos, "You should be ashamed of yourself," wrote one constituent. "You are treating Jewish people differently than any other minority who is being attacked for their race, culture, religion. Somehow, in the left's view, Jews don't count." To Councilman Ryan Dorsey, "Why don't you ride your bike to Israel and then see how you feel about terrorism? Again, you never disappoint." The council members who abstained from the vote insist the resolution should have condemned all forms of hate, like Islamophobia. Councilwoman Felicia Porter replied to one critic, writing, "As members of the council, it is our duty to condemn all those who perpetrate acts of terrorism against both the Jewish and Islamic communities." Her constituent quickly replied, "Oh, please," she wrote, "that's just semantics. Too many Democrats support Hamas and won't condemn anti-Semitism. Shame on all of you." And then there were constituents who were simply confused, writing, "I am surprised that the Baltimore City Council doesn't have enough items to focus on here in our city and needs to address a conflict in another part of the world." Among those writing to the council were judges, rabbis, and even state lawmakers, all of them questioning the council's action or inaction. We're live tonight. Jeff Abel, Fox 45 News.
Jeff, thank you. The FBI says hundreds of false bomb threats emailed to Jewish facilities across the country this weekend originated from outside the country. Intelligence officials say the threats appear to be connected, but none has involved explosives or any credible risk of harm. More than 400 Jewish synagogues, schools, and other institutions were threatened, according to the Anti-Defamation League. The FBI says more than 30 of its field offices around the country are investigating the threats. Anti-war protests have been popping up across America, including inside the U.S. Capitol. National correspondent Kayla Gaskins has the story.
Demonstrators gathering in the Capitol Rotunda Tuesday, calling for an end to the violence in Gaza. They remained calm and respectful, but the demonstration was not authorized. Capitol Police making numerous arrests. A more intense scene playing out the night before in Manhattan. Anti-Israel protesters taking over Grand Central Station Monday evening, calling for an end to the state of Israel, chanting "from the river to the sea," while demanding an intifada. Alec Baldwin caught in the New York chaos, the actor clashing with protesters. These slogans, chanted in New York, have been used historically as calls for violence against Israel and the Jewish people. Left-wing political commentator Bill Maher adding his thoughts.
It's hard to negotiate when the other side's bargaining position is you all die and disappear. I mean, the chant from the river to the sea. Yeah, let's look at the map. Here's the river, here's the sea. Oh, I see, it means you get all of it, even though it's indisputably also the Jews' ancestral homeland.
Americans' views on Israel remain starkly divided, mostly by age. A Harvard-Harris poll conducted this month reports a majority of young Americans believe Israel should be ended and given to Hamas. Israel, the only democracy in the Middle East, Hamas, a designated terrorist group by the U.S. and the European Union. The United States maintains Israel's right to defend itself against terrorism and continues to work for a two-state solution to the conflict. In Washington, I'm Kayla Gaskins.
That brings us to our national question of the day. Do you believe that Israel should continue fighting its war until Hamas is eliminated? So far, 86% of those who voted say yes. To make your voice heard, head to foxbaltimore.com and click on the Pulse tab.
Believe that the commission would like to request that you all take a look at MONSE, specifically the administration of the Safe Streets program.
Well, Fox 45 News has been demanding answers from the city agency overseeing Safe Streets for months, and tonight a probe is a step closer. Mackenzie Frost takes us through the latest push for transparency.
We've been questioning the members of the city's audit commission if they were interested in launching a probe of the mayor's office of neighborhood safety and engagement, and specifically how the Safe Streets program is operated. And now it seems as if that audit is one step closer.
I'm going to go over the Group B proposed audit plan for 2024.
The Biennial Audit Commission meeting Monday for an update on this year's reviews and what's coming next.
Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement. It was presented to us from a couple different parties to include them in the 2024 audit plan.
Councilman Isaac Gitzi-Schleifer says there needs to be a better understanding of how the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement, or MONSE, actually implements Safe Streets, especially when there have been unanswered questions about protocols for the violence interrupters.
There's been a lot of questions raised in the past, and there's really a lot of inconsistencies.
This year, two nonprofits took the lead of managing the 10 Safe Street sites, LifeBridge Health and Catholic Charities. Councilman Schleifer argues no one seems to be on the same page about responsibilities and policies.
We saw that also during previous hearings where questions were asked of those entities, they would defer to MONSE.
Fox 45 News has been investigating Safe Streets for more than 2 years. This year, we uncovered several spending questions within the program, like when Safe Streets spend thousands of dollars on training trips to Los Angeles or hundreds of dollars on sneakers. The fallout of the Brooklyn Day mass shooting highlighted the need for a better understanding of the policies. Safe Streets workers were at the block party mediating conflicts before the chaos unfolded, but didn't tell the police about the event. Fox 45 News previously asking the 7 members of the Audit Commission if they supported a probe of MONSE. Several members said yes. Now the issue back in front of them.
We don't have enough information to even know that there's consistent policies across the board.
My suggestion on this particular case is to follow the money.
But the concern is that the metrics aren't clear enough for the auditor to move forward right away. Instead, the commission moving forward with a plan.
All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
To get a draft scope for the probe together by late January.
Motion carries 7-0.
Before the audit actually happens sometime in 2024. The proposed audit is scheduled to be presented January 23rd. The Audit Commission is also moving forward with a similar plan to look into how the city is spending the federal COVID money, something the City Council President Nick Mosby is necessary to ensure your tax dollars aren't being wasted. In the newsroom, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Fox 45 News will follow this audit closely and press for answers surrounding the Safe Streets program. We'll keep you updated every step of the way. By the way, you can find all of our reporting on our website, foxbaltimore.com. Mayor Brandon Scott's office and Everytown Law are announcing a lawsuit against the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. The city says ATF has denied a request to provide data on where criminals are getting their guns. The city says that data would have provided city leaders with the top 10 sources of crime guns between 2018 and 2022. The city claims ATF didn't share the data because of protection from the NRA. Officials argue Baltimore can't properly evaluate crime in the city without this data.
Keeping the data a secret prevents Baltimore and other cities